unidentified aerial phenomenon for the first time in 50 years. The Pentagon disclosed to lawmakers that it has cataloged more than 400 reports of UAPs.
Strange lights in the sky at night have long made us wonder, but what if those lights caught the eye of America's most powerful leaders? From early post-war days through present times, different presidents have quietly tracked reports of flying objects that do not exist on Earth. Why did some of them push for secret briefings, make off-the-record jokes, or even press foreign rivals about an alien threat? Truman's first UFO briefings. When Harry S. Truman became president in 1945, the world had just come out of an international war. He faced a new rivalry with the Soviet Union. At the same time, people started reporting discs and lights in the sky. Pilots could send reports about objects that moved faster than a plane. Truman saw stories of flying saucers. Some talked of round metal shapes gliding over cities. Others told of radar blips that jumped from one spot to another in seconds. In 1947, a wave of sightings swept across the United States. Citizens in Washington and Oregon watched silent shapes drift above farms. Air Force officers worried these could be secret spy devices from abroad. Truman's team created Project Sign to gather every report. Officers pulled data from ground observers and military radar stations. Soon, patterns were found near key bases. Pilots chased objects that vanished on radar screens. One famous sighting was by pilot Kenneth Arnold near Mount Rainier in June 1947.
A very peculiar-looking aircraft, and they were rapidly approaching Mount Rainier.
By early 1948, Truman asked his military aide to deliver quarterly briefings on unidentified aerial phenomena. These secret memos summarized every case thought to be a possible threat. Findings showed speed estimates of more than 3,000 miles per hour. They recorded objects hovering in formations above radar sites. Reports explained common causes and human errors. They also came across a handful of cases that had no concrete answer. Even though most events had explanations, a few remained serious mysteries that no one could fully solve. Project Sign soon evolved into Project Grudge. Officers aimed to ease public worry by dismissing strange reports as familiar objects. Still, Truman had his doubts. He wrote that some files could not give out answers. In 1951, the Air Force launched Project Blue Book. It catalogued over 12,000 reports. Many ended as balloons, flares, or cloud reflections. Others lacked proof or had conflicting witness statements. However, several cases remained unexplained after a detailed review. Those reports showed a new view that some objects deserved serious attention. Truman never talked of these things in public. He spoke broadly of weather observations and air defense needs. However, his private order for regular updates made it clear that unidentified craft over the United States airspace were not just empty talk. His actions set the tone for future presidents. But what happens when a future president sees something himself? Something so close, so strange, he can't brush it off. What exactly did Jimmy Carter witness that night? Carter's Georgia Light. Years before Jimmy Carter got into the White House, he stood in a field in rural Georgia and stared at something few Americans ever saw. On January 6, 1969, Governor Carter joined friends from the Leary Lions Club to watch the sunset.
UFO sightings. Carter's personal encounter happened outside a Lions Club in Leary, Georgia.
As the sky turned deep blue, they saw a bright disk appear low above the tree line. It glowed white at first, then slowly shifted to orange and red.
Former President Jimmy Carter saw a color-changing UFO in Georgia back in 1969.
Everyone held their breath as the silent object hovered in the sky. After a few moments, it zoomed off toward the horizon in an instant. Carter remembered the disk as close as a football held at arm's reach. He shared how it moved too smoothly to be a balloon or a bird. The way it changed colors and then shot away made it clear this was something else. His fellow club members watched in wonder, unable to explain what had happened. They noted the time, direction, and appearance. None claimed it was an alien ship, but all agreed it deserved answers. Within weeks, Carter filled out a form for the International UFO Bureau in Oklahoma City. He gave his name, the date, and an accurate account of what he and his friends saw. He asked for a natural explanation. That form reached the International UFO Bureau in early March 1969. Its staff reviewed Carter's account with other witness reports. When Carter ran for president in 1976, he mentioned his sighting as proof that he would lead with truth.
Hundreds of thousands of people around this country who've had confidence in me, and I pray that I can live up to your confidence and never disappoint you.
He promised voters he would open all government records on unidentified flying objects. His words gave hope to skywatchers and truth seekers. Many felt the government hid important facts. After he won, White House aides warned him that full disclosure would flood newspapers with daily balloon launches and weather data. They said the public might mock the effort.
This was big. They rise and they don't stay in the sky. Jimmy Carter didn't see a weather balloon.
The nation faced an energy crisis and rising tension with the Soviet Union, so UFO files fell down the list. Carter did not force a full release. He invited experts from Georgia Tech and private groups to study sighting reports. At the Carter Center years later, he allowed researchers to review his findings. Even after leaving the office, he told interviewers that the sighting was with him. He said his own eyes had seen something strange. That evening in Georgia became one of the most notable encounters by a future president. Carter's detailed form outlined time, color shifts, and speed. Though those files remained sealed during his term, his account was successfully made to Washington's records. Years later, researchers still cite that accurate and reliable report as among the most credible presidential observations. Reagan's outer space diplomacy. Ronald Reagan's life before the White House felt like a space adventure. He played heroes in films and talked about exploring other worlds. In 1974, he flew his plane near Bakersfield, California. Looking outside through the window, he saw a bright object climbing straight up into the clear sky. It glowed white and had a round shape. He radioed air traffic control to ask if they had any traffic nearby. They said no. The response left him dumbfounded. He wondered what it could be. When he became president in 1981,
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
Reagan had grand plans for space defense. He talked of shields and satellites that could protect Earth. Many called the plan the Strategic Defense Initiative. The nickname Star Wars stuck fast. Officially, it aimed to stop missiles from enemies on Earth, but Reagan suggested it could guard against threats from beyond. In press conferences, he said no nation could face an invisible enemy alone. He suggested that people on both sides of the Iron Curtain might unite if the world saw a common danger. By framing an alien attack as a possibility, he tried to move nuclear weapons off center stage. In 1985, at a summit in Geneva, he looked at Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev and said lightly that if the world faced an attack by aliens,
well, that wasn't a proposal, that was a decision that has been made.
And what do you think of that decision, sir?
Naturally, I heartily approve.
we could find common ground. His words caused a reaction in both capitals. Those close to him believed he meant more than a joke. He used the idea of an outer threat to push for better disarmament talks. Inside the Pentagon, his team set up small groups to gather reports of strange aerial events. They collected radar data and pilot stories. Many objects were seen moving at very high speeds. They moved like lightning. Some hovered without making a sound at low altitude. The files arrived on Reagan's desk with all findings in them. Each memo had the date, location, and witness accounts. Some papers marked certain cases as unexplained. He read them with interest, often asking for more details. Reagan's advisors included scientists and military officers. They argued that most sightings had normal causes, such as balloons, flares, or lens effects, but a few stood out. A pilot near Alaska described a large disk that glowed orange and moved over water. In another case, radar stations in Montana picked up an object that dropped from 30,000 feet to ground level in seconds. Those cases fueled the desire to dig deep and solve the mystery. Reagan asked NASA officials if their space missions had seen strange objects. At a shuttle briefing, he inquired about weird camera images. Engineers said they sometimes caught strange lights on sensors. He directed NASA to pass any mystery cases to the Pentagon team. Meanwhile, he encouraged officers in Congress to review secret files quietly, building a small network of scientists and military personnel who tracked reports across agencies. He believed sharing data across agencies would help leaders understand whether these objects were friendly or could pose some threat to people. Reagan kept a small folder in the White House filled with pilot logs and radar snapshots. Advisors from NASA and the Pentagon met in secret to match the details of all the findings each company had. After compiling everything, they passed the information to the president by presenting him with a well-detailed briefing. Over time, this collection grew into the backbone of future investigations and ongoing efforts. At Reagan's departure in January 1989, the collection came with him to the inauguration. Those files were later kept in a secure place in the new administration's archives. Those original data formed the seed for later reviews under the next president, ensuring the White House kept track of every strange report. Clinton's Oval Office questions. When Bill Clinton arrived in Washington in 1993, he brought new energy and promised to bring change to how things are done in the White House. Among his first private requests was to have two mysteries examined: the assassination of John F. Kennedy and the history of UFO sightings. He asked his close friend and former justice official Webb Hubbell to look for any hidden reports inside the Pentagon and the FBI. Hubbell reached out to military contacts and Justice Department files. They discovered project summaries, pilot statements, and brief memos that were never released to the public. Some documents dated back to Project Blue Book in the 1950s, while others came from studies near the end of the Cold War. Clinton went through the summaries keenly, asking questions about craft that could outpace known fighters. Even as he pursued those reviews in secrecy, a group in Congress formed a small caucus to press for wider disclosure. Members of both parties urged the president to open military files on aerial phenomena.
Come on, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh.
Clinton's aides warned him that a full release might include daily incidents like misidentified balloons or meteorites. They feared people would mock the effort. He chose a middle path. He approved public summaries of key cases while keeping detailed files in secure archives. In 1995, during a visit to Ireland, Clinton met a child who asked if the government held any alien bodies. He laughed and replied, "If they had any, they could not tell me." The remark spread across the country like wildfire. He used that moment to remind his team to prepare accurate public reports on sightings. He also directed the General Accounting Office to audit the UFO records. Agents reviewed thousands of pages from defense and intelligence agencies. They confirmed that most sightings had obvious explanations. They also found a handful of radar tracks and pilot logs that lacked accurate causes. Bill Clinton encouraged the National Archives to process Freedom of Information requests more quickly so researchers could study declassified papers. He also met with CIA Director John Deutsch to review any intelligence on strange crafts. Deutsch told him that the analysis showed no clear origin for some reports. At FBI headquarters, Director William Sessions said agents found no proof of hidden debris. By the time he left office in 1999, Clinton had expanded the public's access to UFO summaries, and the archives made them easily accessible. He also handed over those files to his successor, placing them alongside other national security records. The careful gathering of evidence ensured that detailed accounts survived and remained available for later review by new administrations. Clinton opened the files, but what would happen when strange craft started showing up on military cameras? Would the next president keep ignoring them, or finally admit what's out there? Obama and the UAP admission. Barack Obama faced many urgent issues during his years in office, from wars overseas to a serious recession at home. UFOs were not at the top of his list. Despite that, his team tracked reports of strange objects. In the year 2007, the Defense Department quietly started the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Scientists looked at pilot videos showing dark shapes moving faster than any jet ever. That study ran until the year 2012. On December the 16th, 2017, a major newspaper story exposed the Pentagon program. Videos showed Navy pilots chasing blips that stopped suddenly or changed direction without slowing. The news stunned many Americans. For Obama, it meant that his team had important data on strange lights in the sky that needed his attention. He later said he had seen some of the clips himself. Inside the Senate, Senator Harry Reid worked to keep funding alive. He set aside $22 million over 5 years for the study. President Barack Obama understood that this effort showed that Congress took UAP reports seriously. He also spoke with NASA officials, asking if any observatories or satellites recorded odd sky events. Years after leaving office, Obama spoke openly about those images. In a May 2021 interview on The Late Late Show, he said no one in the government had told him they found alien bodies. He added, though, that there are videos and records of objects in the skies that we do not know exactly what they are. His words had weight because he had access to files as the commander-in-chief. Before that moment, his aides say he pressed military leaders for more answers. He asked for any credible footage and records, telling them to push beyond what already exists. He heard briefings on cases collected by Navy pilots off ships in the Pacific. Some accounts spoke of glowing shapes darting above carriers without visible propulsion. In late 2021, before leaving office, he asked his team to release as much information as possible. They worked on an unclassified report delivered to Congress in June 2021. That document listed 120 sightings since 2004 that remained untold. It invited scientists to study the data and advise accordingly. After leaving office, Barack Obama mentioned existing footage of strange objects and urged experts to do more investigations. He asked for cooperation from government officials during the collection of this data, which was meant to be put in one database. That work led to a June 2021 unclassified report listing over 100 unexplained cases since 2004. The database still holds sensor data from Navy vessels, radar logs, and detailed interviews, serving as raw material for the ongoing analysis of these strange aerial events. Clinton opened the files, but what would happen when strange craft started showing up on military cameras? Would the next president keep ignoring them, or finally admit what's out there? Trump, Roswell, and today's task force. Donald Trump first took office in January 2017 with many questions still hanging. By mid-2020, he mentioned Roswell. In June of that year, at a news briefing, he said he had heard interesting things about what happened in Roswell, but he would not say more. That short comment made its way through headlines around the world. It even caught the attention of those who had no idea that such things had existed. Under Trump, the Pentagon's Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force began to gather more reports. Pilots flying Navy jets shared video clips of dark shapes darting over the ocean. Some disks moved in very strange patterns that could not go without being noticed. They changed direction without slowing or losing altitude. Others hovered close to ships and vanished into thin air. Trump asked aides for any new footage. He watched short videos and asked questions about their speed and shape. He wanted to know if these were foreign drones or something else. The defense officials worked to organize the data. They collected radar tracks, infrared readings, and testimonies of pilots who had witnessed these strange objects. The evidence came from the Pacific Fleet, Atlantic patrols, and training zones near the East Coast. Teams looked at each case to rule out balloons, flares, or sensor glitches. When a report had no simple answer, it moved to a higher level. That is how dozens of sightings reached the president's desk. In August 2020, the task force released an unclassified summary of 21 cases. It said all the objects that were shown were real but hard to explain. The report called for more resources and outside experts. Congress took notice and approved more funding to study the unknown. Today, the work continues under a new office inside the Department of Defense. It has a fresh name, but the same goal, which is to examine any credible sighting and share findings. Senior leaders meet every quarter to review updates. They recently published another public report. It listed more than 100 incidents since 2004 that remain unresolved. The new study invited scientists and engineers to join the search for answers. Roswell remains a guidepost in this story. What began as a rumor in 1947 still echoes. Each president, from Truman to Trump, has been added to the archive of investigations and reports. The task force today carries that burden with a mission to find the truth. We can conclude that American leaders are concerned about the safety of their citizens and are willing to put so much effort into investigating any strange sightings. So, there you have it. From Truman's first hush-hush briefings to today's official task force, the story of UFOs is tied into the history of American leadership. If you found this as fascinating as I did, click on the next video to continue watching more interesting videos. Do not forget to share your wildest sighting in the comments section below. Until next time, keep your eyes on the sky. Who knows what you might see?